In this video, I will give you every single piece of advice that I would give myself if I could go back in time and coach myself to make $10,000 per month as soon as possible. And all of these things that I'm talking about in this video, I'm still using to this day. It's what helped me to get to $10,000 per month, to $50,000 per month, and now to over $110,000 per month. I'm using all of these things. So if you want to get an insight into my brain and how I think of this when it comes to breaking barriers and reaching new goals in my business and making money online, I'm going to share all of that in this video today. So without further ado, let's just dive into point number one. And the first thing that you need to fix is this thing. It's your brain, it's your self-image, it's your mindset, and it's your character. And to keep myself on track here, I have some notes in front of me as well. And the easiest thing to fix, or the easiest thing that you can do to fix your self-image and the belief that you have of yourself, is to use something called the definite chief aim. And maybe you've read this book by Napoleon Hill that talks about how to set a goal and how to write that goal down and then how to read that goal twice every single day. And the reason why you want to do this is because you need to program your brain and fix your subconscious to know what it is that you're working towards. And this can both work for you and against you, that I want to talk a little bit about later in this video as well. Because if you have a goal that you're working towards, you will work towards that goal and be very excited to reach that goal. But let's say you have a goal of getting to $10,000 per month, but then you want to get to $15,000 per month, but your subconscious goal is still just $10,000 per month, you will start to self-destruct. And this took me a long time to realize. So it's not only that you have to set up a goal initially, but you have to constantly improve your goals and change your mental image of who you are and what you're worth, and continuously build on your character, to build a new personality to be able to achieve your goals. And the reason why I put this as the first thing, before I tell you about what to do and the tactics and what business model to go for and all of these things, right? Honestly, all business models out there work. It doesn't matter if you do like affiliate marketing or SMMA or e-com, or if you start to open up a physical location somewhere, you can make making $10,000 per month. It's not that hard. You can get there very quickly. But the reason why it's hard for you, especially when you start out, is because you don't have the mental model. You don't have the programming in your head that you need to be able to get there. So if you just focus on that first, meaning getting a good character and good self-image of yourself in your own head and in your own imagination, it will be so much easier for you to work towards that goal and actually achieve that goal. And I'm sure you can do this in multiple different ways. You can visualize, you can use affirmations, you can do all of that. The way that I learned how to fix my own self-image was by utilizing this concept that Napoleon Hill talks about, again, in his book, Think and Grow Rich. And it's called, it's this thing when you write a definite chief aim. You basically sit down with a piece of paper and you write down exactly what it is that you want to achieve, when you will achieve it, how you will achieve it, basically your plan. You don't have to know your plan exactly, but you need to have some type of a plan at least. And this, by the way, can evolve over time. And then also you want to write down what it is that you're going to give back once you actually achieve this thing, right? And some of you guys might be thinking, like, this just sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Why should I even sit down and spend my time and write this thing down? Well, the power of it is that you start to reprogram your subconscious mind. It's like you're starting to aim like an arrow, right? Or like a weapon or a gun. You're right now, if you don't have a goal, you have no idea where you're shooting, right? You have no idea where you're going at all. So by the exercise of just writing it down and thinking about what it is that you want to achieve, your subconscious will kind of aim itself towards that goal, which is crucial. And I will explain I will explain soon why it is so important. Because it has to do with your emotional guidance, right? If you feel like doing something, you will most likely do it, right? If you don't feel like doing something, you will most likely not do it. And your subconscious mind is connected to your gut and your gut feeling and your core. So if we can then reprogram our subconscious mind to feel like we want to do something, then we will most likely do it. So that is why it's so important that we start to reprogram ourselves. It sounds like mumbo jumbo, but it's how it works. You want to get this goal into yourself, into your character, into your being. And the easiest step to do that, again, the first thing you do is to write it down, okay? And again, this evolves over time, but you write down what you want to achieve, when you want to achieve it, how you will achieve it, and what you will give back once you've actually achieved it, right? That's the first thing. The second thing that you do is that you create a very simple routine, right? And the best routine that you can create, especially in the beginning, the bare minimum, which is the one that I'm using right now. You can plan out your day every single 10 minutes or every single half hour if you want to do that. That doesn't work with me. But what works is to control my evening and control my morning, right? So instead of me scrolling the phone or watching some useless series on Netflix or just scrolling mindlessly on social media before I go to bed and filling my head with I don't know what, a bunch of cat videos, I spend 30 to 60 minutes every single evening before I go to bed by reviewing my goal, right? I sit down in my bed just before I go to sleep and I review my definite chief aim. I'm like reminding myself of what it is that I'm wanting to achieve, right? I'm like, okay, Max, you dummy. This is what we're trying to do. Right now, we just want to go to $10,000 a month, and I'm going to use this business model to get there. I have really no idea how to do this business model yet, but I will figure it out, and I will join this course, or take this free course on YouTube, or I will get in contact with this person, or whatever your goal is right now. You start where you are right now, right? I will achieve it in 6 months, yada yada, right? And what I will give back when I get there is that I will let other people know on YouTube on how I did this or whatever that might be, right? So you review this before you go to bed. That's the last thing that you fill your mind with before you go into sleep. Then when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning is that you sit up in your bed and you review this thing again. And even better is that if you can have like a journal at the side of your bed or something like that. So when you review this thing in the morning, remember, you reviewed it before you went to bed. Now you've slept, you wake up in the morning, and maybe immediately in the morning, maybe you have an idea. Maybe just before you went to bed, I'm like, I wonder what course I can join, or I wonder what person I can contact. And then when you wake up in the morning, like, I saw that free course on YouTube, or I know of that person, maybe I can ask that person. So that's why it's great to have that journal to the side of your bed, so you can just write down some ideas that you got. And then again, you review this definite chief aim. And you do this every single morning, every single night from today until forever. And again, you're going to update this definite chief aim as you go, which is very important, as we're going to talk about soon. But that is what you do first. And also what you do is that you control the time that you go to bed and the time that you wake up. You want to just create that simple discipline of going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time, or at least controlling your evening and controlling your morning so that you have some type of routine there. If you just get that small little win, that will create a positive spiral effect in your life and in your potential future business as well. And it will just set you up to win. It will build a positive momentum, a positive snowball effect in a way, right? So that is basically that. Now, the third thing I want to do, so now you have your definite chief aim, you have a morning and your night routine. The third thing that I would recommend myself to do when I just started out, and what I can highly recommend that you do as well, is that you just sacrifice all of the shit, all right? Because if you don't sacrifice stuff for your goal becomes the sacrifice. You will have to sacrifice stuff, especially when you're starting out. Because you most likely, I want to say you most definitely are doing things that are not serving you. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. And I'm not saying that none other entrepreneur out there is making a lot of money. We all have our things that we're battling. We all have our demons. But in the beginning, the worst place that you can be in is having a bunch of bad habits that are hurting you. And you're not even aware that they are hurting you, right? So you need to start to sacrifice the things that are stealing your energy. Because that also might sound like a weird thing, right? But energy is literally everything that you have. Everything in this world is energy, right? You wake up every single morning with X amount of units of energy, and then you're doing certain things that are either giving you energy, or you're doing things that are costing you energy. So you can see that energy is really like the currency of your life. And it's up to you to decide where you're going to spend this money, spend this currency, spend this energy, right? Most of us are spending our energy on complete shit, right? We have relationships that doesn't serve us. We're hanging out with a group of friends who are not doing anything constructive with their life. They don't have any goals. They're just wasting their time. And if you're trying to set yourself apart to make some money online, you cannot hang out with people who are just like, they don't have any direction. They're not doing anything with their life. They're not going for anything. Like, you're gonna be influenced by their behavior, and you're just going to be dragged down to their lowest standard, and you're not going to be able to go anywhere. I'm not saying that you're going to say goodbye to all of your friends, but most likely you will have to cut away some people in your life, right? Because you will have to start to focus on yourself. And this is something that I thought was pretty hard in the beginning, because I thought that I was selfish when I started to focus on myself. Well, you're not selfish if you focus on yourself. You have to focus on yourself, especially when you're starting a business, right? But there's also a bunch of other stuff you can cut away, endless amounts of entertainment, or partying, or friends, as mentioned, with no aspirations, or porn, right? Which is a huge thing. If you're just watching these dirty websites on the internet, it's costing you an immense amount of energy and time as well. Or entertainment, or your phone, or social media, or all of these things, or games, which is a huge another thing, right? So you have to identify all of these things that are costing you energy, basically draining your energy. And if you just delete those, what you will notice is that you start to build up a lot of energy. And in the beginning, you might think that it will feel like frustration, or you will become like, I have no idea what to do. And you're feeling like you don't have an outlet for your energy anymore, right? So that's when you need to find more positive things to put your energy into. You remove all of the bad things that have been costing you energy for maybe as long as you remember. When you remove those things, you will build up energy, and then again you will feel that frustration. You will have no idea where to put that energy. That's when you need to identify more positive things, more positive avenues that you can put your energy into. Starting a business will be a huge hole of energy. Like, if you're trying to build a business, you need to build up energy, because you need a lot of energy to build a business. And if you're watching those dirty websites, or have a bunch of friends who are costing you a bunch of energy, or you play video games all day long, you will not have the energy to build a business. And even if you do, you will not feel motivated, and you will also be distracted by all of these other things as well. So it will just fail even before you start. So cut away all the shit, build up massive amounts of energy, and put that energy into your business now that you're going to start. You can also, if you have even more energy, if the business is not enough, go to the gym, right? Now going to the gym will feel like a reward, because before maybe you were too tired to even go to the gym, but now you want to get into the gym to just get some of that energy off you, right? So that's point number 3, to just sacrifice all the shit that you can do, right? Now, the fourth thing I want to talk about, which is huge, is that you need to start to focus on you, right? And as mentioned, when I started to kind of play around with this idea when I was starting out, I felt selfish, right? I was like, isn't it just bad to focus on me? That's kind of how I was brought up, I guess, that you always do everything that you can for other people, and I still believe that. But when I was giving myself more time to focus on myself, and then kind of distancing myself from my friends back then, who weren't really doing anything with their life, they wanted to just do other stuff. And when I started to distance myself from them, my friends, right, I thought, like, maybe this is bad, maybe this is selfish of me to do this. But that is a sacrifice that you have to do. You have to start to focus more on yourself. There's no ifs and buts about it. If you look at all of the successful entrepreneurs out there, people are way more successful than me, and you can find them on YouTube, or you can find them on interviews, or whatever it is. Just listen to their stories and look. If you just look behind the curtain of how they're living their lives, they are spending a bunch of time with themselves and just working, right? And the better you can become, and the more energy you can build, that's so that you can put into your business, and the more time you can spend with yourself, to educating yourself, to learning and reading and improving and working out and doing all of these things to make yourself better, will result in you creating a better business faster as well. Because the better you are, the better your business will be, especially in the beginning, because you are really the business, right? It makes sense, right? You are the business in the beginning, when you don't have any employees or anything like that, right? So if you become better, your business will become better. If you have more energy, your business will have more energy and time and work put into it, right? And so that is basically the first thing I wanted to talk about, that you need to have a goal and you need to align yourself with that goal, and you need to sacrifice everything that is stealing your energy so that you can build up your energy and then put that into your business. And if you want to succeed with business, you can't really be half in and half out. You have to go for it. You have to make a decision. It's not like those video games that you might have been playing, or those other things that you've tested, the sports that you've tested before. You really have to make a decision that you want to go for it. Because having this shiny object syndrome, where you're jumping around in and out and back and forth, and you're not really taking it serious, it's not going to work when you start a business. It's going to eat up pretty much all of your time, all of your energy, and you will have to make a bunch of sacrifices. And that's just the way it goes, right? But another thing I want to mention here as well, which is super, super important, is that we humans have a tendency to destroy ourselves, to build ourselves up, and then to destroy ourselves. And as an entrepreneur, this can be very, very detrimental. And the reason why this is happening, right? I'm going to explain to you exactly why it's happening. And maybe you've heard about law of attraction and, affirmations. And I've talked about, a definite chief fame and Napoleon Hill and all of these things. You might think, or like manifesting, right? You might think that all this mindset stuff, it's just some mumbo jumbo spiritual stuff that you don't believe in, right? I believe that there is a spiritual aspect to this thing that we can't really explain. Meaning that if you know what you want, and if you put yourself in the position to achieve stuff, the universe will kind of open doors for you and get you to that place. I believe that stuff because it's happened for me ever since I started this entrepreneurial journey. But I'm also going to explain to you why this is happening on a much more practical way, right? So even if you don't believe in the spiritual stuff, that and the universe and all that yada yada, right? I want to explain to you why having a mindset and the character, why it's working in a very practical sense, and why we build ourselves up and why we destroy ourselves down. And if you learn this thing alone, you will succeed so much faster than you would have if you didn't know about this, and you will run laps around the people who have no idea how this is working. So let me give you a practical example, right? Let's say you're making $0 per month right now, and you want to get to $10,000 per month. If you do everything that I've told you about so far, right? You're like, I'm going to do this thing. You take a decision, you write it down, you create your definite chief fame, you create a morning routine, your night routine, you read it every day, every morning and every night when you wake up. You cut it, you cut away all of the shit, you build up your energy, you pour that energy into your business, and you start to get dialed in, right? Your entire being is about achieving this goal of making $10,000 per month. And let's say you are one of the few who actually go for it, because most people actually don't go for it. They watch a video like this one, then they leave, and then they jump into the computer and play a video game, or they watch Netflix, or they watch that YouTube video, and then they're off to the races of just doing shit, and then they're stuck, right? But let's say you are one of these people who actually want to go for it. You're one of the few who actually are going to do it. So you put this goal of $10,000 per month, you wake up tomorrow, you don't really feel like, you start to repeat yourself of this goal, like it becomes like a mantra and affirmation that, hey, I want to achieve $10,000 per month within this time frame, etc. Day number 1, you really don't believe it, right? Day number 2, when you read it, you really don't believe it. But after day number 7 or day number 10, you're like, hey, like I'm actually starting to get some ideas here now. I'm starting to believe this thing of my goal. I'm starting to believe that it's actually possible to achieve this thing, right? And what happens when you start to believe that thing is that now you've started to reprogram your brain. And the reason why you start to believe in it is because your gut, your feelings are starting to tell you that, hey, Max, this actually feels possible, right? It feels like it's possible. And that's a huge keyword. It's your feelings are telling you that this thing that I'm planning on doing might actually work. And what happens when you feel like you can do it? Well, now you start to take a little bit of action, right? Because your emotions will guide your behavior, right? So when you feel like you can do it, that's when you start to try and do it, right? So now you get started. Now you've read your goals for like 10 days. You start to feel like you can do it. You actually get started. Maybe you start to look for that course on the internet. Maybe you start to buy your first domain, buy your first website. Maybe you start to reach out to businesses or buy your first product or whatever it is, right? Create your first course, etc. So you start to take action, and then you start to build momentum, and then you continue to read it. You read it every morning, you read it every night. You start to put in more energy into it, more action, more action. Then you get your first client, you make your first money online, and then you get even more confidence. You start to take even more action, and then eventually you get to 2K per month, 3, 4, 5K per month, 8K per month, and then you finally hit that 10K per month mark. Then something very interesting happens. You're going to be super stoked that you make that happen, but it's very short lasting, because you get this weird feeling where it's like an anti-climax thing, where it's like you thought you would be very happy to reach $10,000 per month, but you have an empty feeling. You're like, now what? What should I do now, right? So then you're like, yeah, maybe I can just continue. Maybe I can just continue and get another client. But you're not really excited to do work now anymore, because in your subconscious goal, right, in your mind, in your self-image, you have set a goal for $10,000 per month. And now you've come to $10,000 per month. So when you consciously tell yourself to continue to work even more and get another client and then another client, your gut is telling you like, I don't really want to work. Why should I work? Like, we had a goal of 10K per month. Now I am at 10K per month. Like, I don't really have when you wake up in the morning, you're not really that motivated anymore. You don't feel like you want to do it anymore because you've achieved that thing that you wanted to achieve, right? So what happens then? You start to slack off. You start to reward yourself with some entertainment again, or you start to fall back to bad habits again because like you don't really want to work anymore, right? You already achieved your goal. So what happens then? Well, you start to lose a client, or start to lose a client or two, and your monthly recurring revenue goes back to 7K or maybe 5K and maybe 2K. And when you get close to zero, like back to zero again, you start to panic, right? And then like, shit, now I need to work again. Now I need to get dialed in again. So then you get back to your goal again, and then you start to work yourself up to 5, 10, 5, 8, and then finally 10K per month again, right? And most people get stuck in this. And the reason why this is happening is because they're never updating their goal, right? They have this self-image of making $10,000 per month, so they build themselves up to 10K. When they are at 10K, since they don't have a self-image of making more money per month, they start to destroy themselves and then start to build them up themselves again. So they build themselves up and then destroy themselves down, and they're stuck in this loop forever, essentially. And this took me so long time to understand, that you constantly have to update your goals and your self-image to break through that glass ceiling and to go above and beyond and continuously to improve, right? So that is why I put this as point number 1, to fix your self-image, fix your mindset, and fix your character. It's literally everything, right? So that is that. The next thing I want to talk about is just the concept of taking action, right? And the way you take action, again, should be pretty clear to you by now, is that it gets a lot easier for you to take action when you want to take action. And if I ask you right now, like, how do you get yourself to want to take action? Well, you fix this thing, because when you fix this, you will fix this. You will fix your gut and your feeling, and you will feel like you want to work because you have this goal, right? And then taking action will be much more easier and much more fun, right? But when it comes to action as well, right? Most of us are afraid to fail. And you must realize, the quicker we realize that it's okay to fail, this word of failure is just such a bad word, because it implies that it's something wrong with failing. It's impossible to succeed without failing. Like, you have to go through obstacles and have temporary defeats to be able to make it, or to be able to progress. You cannot win all the time, right? So you have to understand that you learn as you go. And this is something that I battled with for a long time. I wanted to know exactly what to do before I even started, so that I could avoid failure. But when you start your entrepreneurial journey, you understand that the quicker I fail, the faster I will progress. Think about it like this. If you knew that you would become a millionaire after you have failed 1,000 times, every single time that you failed, you would celebrate, right? Because now you could take another failure off the list. You would be like, yes, I've now failed 10 times. Now I just need to do this 100 more times, right? Or 100x this, 100 times 10. Now I've failed 1,000 times. And I'm 1% of my way there, right? So you would see it as a celebration. And I know this to be a fact, because the people that I've been helping throughout my own journey, the people who succeed the fastest are the people who fail the fastest as well, or fail the fastest, right? So that's that. So take action and don't be afraid of failure. You have to fail fast. Also, when it comes to selecting your business model, right, which is a huge thing, there's a quote by Steve Jobs, and he said this, right? The only way to do great work is to love what you do. This is something that took me a long time to actually realize, but I want you to select the business model that you are interested in. Don't listen to people like myself on YouTube who are trying to inspire you, or what's the word for it in English, to basically tell you what business to do because it's the best business model. There is really no best business model. There are different business models with different leverage and yada yada, but in the beginning, if you just want to make $10,000 a month, select the business model that you enjoy, that you seem to find some interest in. If people tell you to do SMMA, but you're like, I don't really like it, it don't sound like a good thing to do, then don't do that thing. If e-commerce is interesting you more, or creating a course is interesting you more, or if, I don't know, doing Amazon FBA or affiliate marketing interests you more, do the thing that you feel some type of interest in. And it's fine if that doesn't end up to be the thing that you want to do, but you should strive to do stuff that you love to do, especially in business. Because if you just are in it for the money, there will always be somebody else who actually love this thing, and they will outperform you like nothing else. So choose something that you at least strive to find a business model that you love, all right? Because it will just makes it so much easier for you to go all in, right? And that's my next point. Like, you have to go all in. Like, you can't be 50-50 when you start a business. Like, you must go all in, and you can only be all in if you love what you do, right? So that just goes back to that, right? And also, here's the thing, right? This thing that I'm going to tell you about right now, if you just do this one thing, you will be able to win by default, right? You will be able to win when others fail. Because most people, when they start their business, they're self-destroying themselves by utilizing this thing called the shiny object syndrome. And I'm sure you know how this thing goes, right? Because here's what most people do when they start a business, including myself, over and over and over and over again. I don't know how many times I did this, and it cost me so much time. It was a valuable lesson though, and I it was part of my journey. But if you can save yourself from this, you're going to be able to progress so much faster than everybody else. So here's how it goes. You start a business, you're super pumped up, you build up the website, you build a brand, you start a course, you start to learn stuff, you start to implement, you build that CRM system, you build a website, you start to design your logo, and you start to build your pitch deck, and you start to create your offer, and you're pumped up because you're starting out, you're building things, right? But then you start to reach out to clients, or you start to promote this thing or try to sell this thing. And then you notice that, hey, this is actually pretty hard. And it's not that fun either. It's like, it's hard, it's tough. Maybe it's easier if I do that other thing. So you're like, let's try that out. And then you start this new business model, right? So you're like, then you're starting the website again, and then you're starting a new brand and a new logo, and you're starting to source some products, and you're starting to find a partner, and you start to find all of these other things. And now you're excited again because you're starting off, you're launching it, and you're pumped up. And then you launch it, and then you're like, hey, this is actually pretty hard, this one as well. Like, it's hard to get clients, it's not that easy to make sales, like the money's not coming in as I want to. Maybe it's easier if I do that other thing. And then you just continue to do this thing, right? Over and over and over and over again. It's called the shiny object syndrome. And the thing that you need to realize then, right, is that every single business model that you can start is hard. It is hard, right? It takes energy, it takes focus, it takes thinking, and it takes time. It takes a lot of time. So if you just know this, even before you start, that no matter what business model you start, it will be hard. You will have competition everywhere. You need to learn how to think and how to separate yourself, how to create offers. Then you have competitors. You need to directly make something different from your competitors. And there will always be somebody else who's trying to steal your lunch and make an even better offer than you. And it will require your full focus 100% of the time. And you will have to work and just work, essentially, right? So if you know this before you start, that no matter what business model you start, it will be hard. So when you come to that point where it's like, shit, this is actually hard, instead of then trying to start something else and think that is going to be easier, which is a complete fallacy, you're just like, okay, let me seek some help right now. Let me seek some inspiration. Maybe I can join a course. Maybe I can get help from a mentor. Maybe I can just sit down and think through this problem myself and actually solve this thing. and then you work through the problems, right? So the grass is not greener on the other side, the grass is greener where you water it, right? So the way you win by default is that when the going gets tough, you continue. And then the way you win by default is just by knowing that most people, when they get to that point, when it gets a little bit hard, they will fall off. They will start something else. So let's say imagine yourself being on the starting line and you're 10 people starting out. When you get to this point, when the going gets tough, 80% of the people that started will just give up. They will start something else. So the way you win by default is just staying the course, right? You can progress pretty slowly. It doesn't matter. You can run slower than the first 10 people, the first X portion of the course, right? Because you know that if you just continue slowly but steadily, you will win by default, because most people will just fall off organically. They will give up essentially to try something else. So that is that. And the next thing I want to talk about is thinking, right? This is huge. And I want to basically convey to you that thinking is the hardest work that you ever do in your business. And that is actually a quote by Henry Ford, who he was one of the richest people back when he built his company called Ford, right? Ford Motors. And he has a quote that says, the hardest work that we do is thinking, which is most likely why most people don't do it. I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that the hardest work he ever did was thinking, and most people don't think at all because it's the hardest work there is, right? And the main thing I want to convey with this is that you are the key. You, right? You are the key. And you might think that you don't have enough answers because you don't have any experience yet. And so you want to look out there on the internet from YouTube videos like this one to find the answers on the YouTube video, or find the answer to a question in a course, or from that guru, or from that mentor, or if you just pay a bunch of people a bunch of money, they will solve everything for you. And coming from me, I don't know, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars into courses and coaches and consulting and masterminds and all of that stuff. So yes, believe me, it's worth your money to invest in courses. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I'm also saying that you can't buy yourself a six pack, right? You can't buy yourself muscles, right? The same thing goes with your business. You can't really buy yourself a successful business. You can't buy yourself thinking. You can't buy yourself through everything here in life. You have to actually use your brain. You have to think. And most of the time, the things that you're trying to solve are actually pretty easy things to solve. But you're not solving them because you're not even trying to solve them. You're never sitting down with a pen and paper and thinking and asking yourself the question, Max, what am I missing here? What should I do here? How can I solve this thing? Because the main thing when you think and how you think, when I tell people, like, go and think about it, people are like, what do you mean? And I was the same way before. If somebody told me to think about it, I was like, what do you mean think about it? Should I just sit and think? Like, most people don't even know what that means. If I tell you to go to the gym and go and work out, you know that you should go into the gym and lift some weights, right? But if I tell you to go and think, most people are like, what do you mean? How do you even think, right? Which is crazy, because an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to think. And how I think and how I do this exercise is that I just sit in a room. Either I just sit and stare at a wall in my bedroom and I talk with myself. I ask myself questions. Max, what am I missing here? How can I make this better? And even you can just have a pen and paper as well. You can sketch this thing up, right? Here's my business. Here's what I'm doing right now. What am I missing, right? And then you just ask yourself questions, because most of the time the answer that you're searching for, it's right there. You already have it in here, but you haven't given yourself the time to even look for it. So instead of just sitting down and asking yourself a couple of questions and to figure this thing out, you go and ask a bunch of other people, and you join a course. You waste a bunch of money on a course in the hopes of solving that for you, because we're lazy as humans, right? You don't want to do the hardest work there is, right? You don't want to think because it's hard. Yes, it is hard to think. It's the hardest work there is, right? But if you just do that, if you build up your energy so that you actually have some energy and you spend that energy on thinking, you will progress so much faster. Like, I can't tell you how much money and time I've wasted by just ignoring the fact that I could figure it out myself. If I just sat down and just asked myself gave myself some time to actually try to figure it out. which is huge, right? So yeah, I'm just going through my notes here. Yeah, and that's basically it, what I wanted to have to say. And you can incorporate this into your morning and evening routine as well, right? So you do some thinking, a thinking session just before you go to bed, and also a thinking session just when you wake up in the morning, which is also very powerful, because then you could ask yourself questions before you go to bed, and then when you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, most of the time you just get the idea out of the blue. You're like, Max, what am I missing this thing? Like, what am I missing right now with this funnel, or with this ads, or with this strategy, with this business setup, with this internal business setup now right now with operations? Like, what am I missing? If I just put that into my mind and then I go to bed, in the morning, either it pops up in the morning, or when I stand in the shower, I'm like, that's how I should do it. That's how I'm solving it. And most of the time the answer is just a 3-year-old could have solved that problem for me, right? Because the answers are most of the time very simple answers, but you have to ask yourself the question to get that idea, or get that answer, if that makes sense, hopefully. So yeah, think. You have to start to think. The earlier the better, and you are the key to most of the questions. So yeah, it's great to look for answers out there, but don't ignore yourself. Don't ignore this thing. You can use this thing to find the answers for you, right? And then the fourth thing that I want to talk about, if you want to get to $10,000 per month as quickly as possible, and what I would recommend to myself if I could go back in time and speak to my younger self, like, do this to kind of reach your income goals faster and easier, right? And that is the concept of just getting dialed in, right? And if you've never been dialed in, you will not know what it is. You will not know how it feels, and you will never have experienced it. But the way that you get dialed in is basically building up your energy and being on a mission to achieve a goal. That's how I define at least being dialed in, meaning that I know what it is that I want to achieve. Either it's a financial goal, most likely if you're an entrepreneur and you want to build that business, let's say $10,000 per month. If you have that goal of $10,000 per month, and you cut away all of the shit in your life, right? You cut away all of the porn, all of the bad food, all of the toxic relationships. You don't waste your time on entertainment anymore. You're not filling your brain with a bunch of useless just news and music that are shit, or YouTube videos that talks about gossip, or you just remove all of that stuff. You build up energy, meaning that you're leaking the energy leakage. You remove that. You build up your energy, you're on a mission to achieve a goal, and you put all of your energy towards that goal. And what you will notice if you do that over X amount of weeks, or days, weeks, and even months, is that you will start to feel, you will become dialed in. And I don't know how to explain it, but you must really experience it yourself, I guess. It's like when you wake up in the morning, your all of your thinking and all of your thoughts are in line with this goal that you're trying to achieve. And if you can achieve this state of being dialed in, working will not only become more fun, you will not only progress faster, and the journey will become easier. You will get more ideas, you will have more enthusiasm and more energy to actually do the work. You will not only get that, but you will also enjoy the process so much more. It will be so much more fun, and you will become this thing that you're trying to achieve. It sounds weird, but I can't recommend it enough to that should be your goal, to become dialed in. And the way you become dialed in is by doing all of these things that I've talked about, right? So if we just summarize this video very quickly, get a definite chief aim, know what it is that you want, right? Create a simple routine, sacrifice all of the shit, focus on you, and don't be afraid of focus on you. You're not selfish if you focus on you. You should focus on yourself. Also, remember that it's very important that you need to update your goals all the time as you go, because you can build yourself up and then destroy yourself down, right? So when you achieve your goal, you need to create a new goal. The goal should not be to achieve the actual goal. It should be to be on the progression towards the goal. So the bigger the goal, the better. But I still recommend to start with small goal, create a little bit bigger goal, and then a little bit bigger goal. But eventually you want to have a massive goal so that you never really reach your goal, because then you will be on this upward trajectory all the time, right? And you will find the most happiness as an entrepreneur when you're on the progression towards your goal. When you reach the goal, it's a trap, because you can get stuck in that place where you will start to self-destruct. So immediately when you achieve your goal of $10,000 per month, let's say, remember this thing that I've told you about in this video. You need to create a new goal immediately and start to reprogram your mind to achieve that thing now instead, because if you don't, you're going to start to self-destruct. All right? Take action, right? We talked about that. And select the business model that you love. And again, we had the quote by Steve Jobs, right? The only way to do great work is to love what you do. Go all in. You can't be 50-50. Remember the shiny object syndrome, how to win by default, all right? So most people will start something and quit to restart something else and then quit that thing. So if you simply realize from this day today and onward that every single business model that you start, it will be hard. It will be tough. That's just the way it is, right? But when you get there, when the going gets tough, know that every single person out there, most of them will quit when they get there. So if you just simply progress, you don't have to progress super fast, but if you just stay the course and continue to progress, you will win by default, because most other people will quit, right? Also remember that you are the key. It's okay to look for answers out there externally by asking other people, buying courses, watching YouTube videos and all of that. But don't ignore this thing, right? Most of us don't think, and thinking is the hardest work there is. That's again, you need a goal, build up your energy, and use a lot of that energy into thinking. Ask yourself questions, write down your questions, sleep about those questions, think about those questions, and you will get ideas from nowhere. When you're out walking the dog or taking a shower, you will get that answer to that question. So you are the key, and you must start to think, right? And then finally, that kind of encapsulates all of this that I've been talking about, is that you need to get dialed in. If you want to achieve that $10,000 per month mark faster and easier, you need to become dialed in. You need to become your goal, right? You need to become that person who can achieve that thing. You need to change your character. You need to change the image of yourself. And it's pretty much just all mindset. That's really all there is, because your mind will control your feelings, and your feelings will control your behavior. Because again, if you feel like doing something, you will most likely do it. If you don't feel like doing something, you will most likely not do it. So the way you control how you feel towards something, and if you're going to do it, is by controlling your mindset and your goal. Hope that helps.